Hello, poetry lovers. Tonight's video shows the creation of a new poem entitled Things to Teach My Daughter About Anger. Stick around until the end of the video to see the completed first draft of this new poem. So this poem was written in a moment of very high emotion, kind of the more stereotypical poetry writing experience. It's a lyric poem, which means that it explores the poet's own thoughts and emotions. And although I frequently write lyric poetry from a more emotionally distant headspace, as Wordsworth said, emotion recollected in tranquility, I wrote this piece as a means of expressing and processing the anger that is the poem's subject. This can be a dangerous tactic, since poetry that's written from a place of strong emotions can easily devolve into melodramatic, pathetic, soppy writing. I attempted to prevent that by avoiding talking about the emotions I was feeling, instead focusing on concrete physical details and an extended analogy. The analogy kicks off in the fourth line, where anger is personified as a builder of a cathedral. There are two reasons I think this analogy seemed right. First, that it creates a sense of both action and stagnation. The building of a new cathedral wing is a busy, complex activity, but the thing being built is solid, unmoving, and will likely stay unchanged for a long time. I think of famous European cathedrals that are centuries old and how the work of people from so long ago is still a weighty physical presence. So I liked that connotation for this experience. The other reason this analogy seemed to fit is that it connects the anger and the buildup of anger over a long term to a religious experience. Now, I'm a religious person, so I by no means intend this analogy to imply that this anger itself has anywhere near the significance of the kind of faith that can shape a whole life. Instead, I wanted to suggest that certain causes of anger can produce an almost religious zeal. I wanted to imply that the situation is a serious one that merits the kind of fervent response I usually think of in connection with a faith experience. As I was working on this analogy, I wanted to make sure to tie it to physical reality rather than falling back on emotion words, since those can be very empty and weak for a reader who hasn't already identified personally with a poem. So I focused on physical sensations in my own throat and mouth, as though the cathedral was being constructed inside my trachea. That physical grounding then helped me move into the next section of the poem by moving my gaze physically downward, looking to my heart in the next section. So I spend the better part of the poem developing this analogy and then try to shift it a little or give a different perspective about 2/3 of the way through. This is a very common strategy for me, one that mimics the development of a Petrarchan sonnet, and I think my early practice writing lots of sonnets really kind of baked into me a sense that a poem should have a turn, like you will see in any good sonnet or often in other strict forms like a shijo. Here I used the word second as a contrast to the opening line to indicate the beginning of the shift, and then use the remainder of that line to give a hopefully slightly surprising new direction, that I need to teach something I don't yet know. In the end of the poem, I came to a final line that I hadn't really planned or anticipated, and that helped me both turn the poem to an unexpected conclusion and also to process the emotion in a way that surprised me. This was, for me, one of the occasions when writing under the influence of feelings, I think, worked out quite well. And one final surprise of this piece was that it served as the inspiration for a new series. I'm now planning to do several poems on this topic, considering my very young daughter and what I would want to teach her, if I could, about some of these powerful moments in human experience. So you can look out for future installments in this series, though most of them will probably not be written in the heat of the moment, as this one was. So here's the finished piece. There are a few places in here that I know I need to tweak, but here's the complete first draft of Things to Teach My Daughter About Anger, written in about 23 minutes on July 19th, 2021. Things to Teach My Daughter About Anger. First, how it builds. As I sit opposite her, hear her testimony, know what he said, I sense anger breaking new ground, raising new walls, adding a wing on this cathedral of rage 18 years in the making. My pulse pounds 1,000 hammers, a busy worker pushing anger's parapet high till my throat encloses a ziggurat. My palate swells with steeple bells whose heavy clappers prep a vicious tintinnabulation. Such a storm of words waiting to resound. And looking down this livid tower, down past stony years separating us, I see my anger's heart. Second, what I don't yet know. How to parse out that heart, to name my anger's root, to dig past hurt upon hurt and learn what drives my rage. Zeal for justice, or just a throbbing, blood-red scene of grief. Thanks for watching this episode of Ars Poeticat. If you enjoyed watching poetry happen, please like and subscribe. Then go make some art.